there are two or three differences. One, the size of our economy and the consumption of our economy is much different than the German economy. So many might make the case, and I find it ironic, that we're too big to fail, that the rest of the world won't allow our currency to be so devalued. And many would say that all the debt that we owe China and Japan and others, they would never allow us to devalue our currency because it would only devalue what we have to pay them back. So that may be a difference, but I find the irony compelling. The very thing that we are claiming as the worst thing that could happen to America, that we would have companies or industries that are too big to fail, is the very thing we are depending upon for our survival. That we as Americans are so large as consumers to the world that the world would not allow us to fail. We are printing money and distributing it through the Fed, by the Federal Reserve, borrowing from the federal government, if you will, and putting cash out there. They're buying these bonds, taking the IOU and giving the cash to the government so the government can spend. It's no different than the government just printing it and spending it, but it appears to be through an external source, being the Fed, when it really isn't. It is simply handing the Fed cash to give back to them so that they can spend it, and the Fed holds the IOU. Now that kind of monetization of debt, or circularity of debt, is something that you didn't see in Germany in a circular fashion. It was overt. The question is, what happens when the rest of the world discovers that we are monetizing and doing nothing different than what they did in the Weimar Republic in Germany? The one thing that the Weimar Republic did post-Weimar, toward the end of a period of time, is where they shifted to that new currency and they backed it up with land. That was their first effort and attempt to establish it as a currency that had something of underlying value. What do we have in the United States of underlying value? Trust. As soon as someone no longer believes that the United States can repay its obligations, it has no collateral, and that paper has no value. A AAA rating means nothing if people can't repay it. But as long as they believe that we have sufficient trust, or that we will consume enough of their goods, or we will produce enough as an economy that we have value, then it sustains itself. But only so long as the trust is in place.